Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to Leisure Gaming. I am Leisure. For today's deck profile, we are looking at an archetype that came to Master Duel about 4 months ago, but I never see it played on the ladder and I have to know why. Today we are looking into Vaylantz. Vaylantz is a pendulum archetype that has their effects activated by moving them from the spell or trap zone to a monster zone, and then activated once again if they're moved to a different monster zone. It kind of feels like you're playing a chess game instead of Yu-Gi-Oh because you have to move them specifically for the best outcome. The downside that I'm finding, and probably why it's not played a lot on the ladder, is that Vaylantz seems to brick, along with it just being pretty complicated with the movements that it has to do. But if you can get something going, you can end on a pretty interesting board, which will allow you for a lot of spell and trap negates. To start off the deck profile, we have one Cyberstein. You can pay 5,000 life points to special summon one fusion monster from your extra deck in attack position. There's only one fusion monster that we're going to be summoning off of this effect, and that is Naturia Exterio. We have 3 Maxis for the extra draw power for the deck, our 3 Ash Blossoms, and 1 Lava Golem to clear off your opponent's monsters by tributing 2 monsters they control. Going into the Vaylantz package, all of Vaylantz monsters have the same pendulum effect where they can be special summoned from the spell and trap zone to a monster zone within that same column. We're starting with 3 Vaylantz Priestess. During the main phase, if this card is special summoned from the spell or trap zone to a monster zone, you can then search for 1 Vaylantz spell. Primarily, you're going to be looking for your Vaylantz Wars. If this card moves from one monster zone to another, you can add 1 Vaylantz monster from your deck to your hand, and you're going to be looking for Viscount. We have 3 Buster Baron. If you control this special summon card, you can target 1 other Vaylantz monster in your main monster zone and move that monster to an adjacent monster zone. If this card in the monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can target 1 card in either player's pendulum zone and place it face up in its adjacent spell or trap zone as a continuous spell. We have 1 Vaylantz Archer. If you control this special summon card, you can target 1 effect monster on the field, toss a coin. If the result is heads, negate its effect, or if the result is tail, half the attack. Now, if this card moves to a different monster zone, you can target 1 card on the field, toss a coin, and if the result is heads, destroy it, or if the result is tails, return it to the hand. Next are 3 Voltage Viscounts. During your main phase, if you control this special summon card, you can place 1 face-up Vaylantz Pendulum monster from your extra deck face up in your spell or trap zone as a continuous spell. Your primary target for this is going to be your Vaylantz Ninja. If this card in your monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can place 1 face-up Vaylantz Pendulum monster from your extra deck in your pendulum zone. 1 Kaiden Kindle Spirit. When this card is normal summon, you can choose 1 card in your pendulum zone and send to the graveyard all cards your opponent controls in the same column as that card. Once per turn during your end phase, if this card was normal summon, or flip face up this turn, return this card to the hand. Now, because this isn't a Vaylantz card, it has a different pendulum effect. If a monster or monsters is pendulum summoned, return this card from the pendulum zone to the hand. Next are 3 Vaylantz Ninjas. You can target 1 other monster in either main monster zone, move that monster to an adjacent monster zone. If this card in a monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can target 1 Vaylantz monster card in your spell or trap zone and special summon it to your main monster zone in its same column. Next are 3 Vaylantz Mad Marquise. During your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided die, excavate that many cards from the top of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 excavated Vaylantz card to your hand. Also shuffle the rest into the deck. If this card in the monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can roll a 6-sided die, and if you roll a 2, 3, 4, or 5, special summon 1 monster card from your spell and trap zone to your main monster zone in that same column. And to round out the Vaylantz package, we have 2 Vaylantz Warriors. You can target 1 face-up card in either spell and trap zone, return it to the hand. If this card in a monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can fusion summon 1 Vaylantz fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, and or pendulum zones. To start with the spells, we have 3 Small Worlds. Reveal 1 monster in your hand, choose 1 monster from your deck that has exactly 1 of the same type, attribute, level, attack, or defense, and banish the revealed monster from your hand face down. Then add from your deck to your hand 1 monster that has exactly 1 of the same type, attribute, level, attack, or defense as the monster chosen from your deck, and banish the card chosen from the deck face down. This is going to be a big searcher, especially if you don't open with Priestess or Baron to start your combos. Next are 3 Vaylantz Wars, which is searchable off of your Priestess as I've mentioned before. Add 1 Vaylantz field spell from your deck to your hand, then you can apply the following effect, which is totally optional. Destroy 1 pendulum monster card you control, and if you do, add 1 Senate Switch from your deck to your hand. Now, if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish this card, place 1 face-up Vaylantz pendulum monster from your extra deck in your pendulum zone. Next are 2 Vaylantz World Shinra Bansho. When this card is activated, place 1 Vaylantz field spell from your deck face up in your opponent's field zone, except Shinra Bansho. If there are 2 cards in the field zone, the turn player can target 1 monster in their own spell or trap zone. They special summon that card to a main monster zone in the same column. Next are 2 Vaylantz World Weisen. When this card is activated, you can place 1 field spell from your deck face up to your opponent's field zone. If there are 2 cards in the field zone, the turn player can target 1 effect monster in the opponent's main monster zone in the same column as one of the monsters they control. They place that opponent's monster face up as a continuous spell in their spell and trap zone in that same column. Now if the zone is occupied, you would just destroy the occupying card. Primarily, you would want Weisen on your side of the field so that way you can activate Shinra on your opponent's side of the field. If you don't open with Weisen, you are going to search Weisen with Vaylantz Wars. Next is 1 Senate Switch. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster in your main monster zone and move that target to another monster zone either to the left or to the right. If you don't have a way to move your Vaylantz, this is one way to do so that way you can have your effects activated. And lastly, 2 Call by the Graves. Going into the extra deck, we have 1 Naturia Exterior, which I've mentioned before. This is going to be summoned off of your Cyberstein. When a spell or trap is activated, you can banish 1 card from your graveyard, then send the top card of your deck to the graveyard to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Keep in mind, this is not a once per turn or a once per chain, so if someone activates Call by the Grave, you can activate Naturia Exterior, and if they try to activate Imperm as part of that chain, you can then chain once again to negate that Imperm. 1 Momonoka, the Vaylantz United. During the main phase, you could target 1 effect monster in your opponent's main monster zone. Place that opponent's monster face up as a continuous spell in their spell and trap zone in the same column. Now if the zone is occupied, destroy the occupying card, and if it is a monster card, your opponent loses life points equal to its attack. If this special summon card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can then place this card in your pendulum zone. This Vaylantz card has some extra pendulum effects, where the first one you can special summon this card from your main monster zone to the same column, just as like the other Vaylantz, but this one also allows you to move 1 monster in your main monster zone to an adjacent monster zone. Next are 2 Genesis Grand Dukes. This face down card in the extra deck must first either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing 1 level 5 or higher non-fusion Vaylantz monster in the same column as the extra monster zone. Primarily, this is going to be your ninja. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's spell and trap zone, return it to the hand, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Then this card gains the attack equal to half the damage inflicted. Once again, this also comes with an additional pendulum effect, where the first you can special summon this card from your main monster zone to the same column, or move 1 monster in your main monster zone to an adjacent monster zone. 1 Gear Gigant X. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 level 4 or lower machine monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. The only target that you're going to have for this is going to be your Cyberstein, so that way you can normal summon it after to get into your Exterior. Next, 1 number 41 Baguska. This attack position card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot target this attack position card with card effects. While this card is in face-up defense position, change all face-up monsters on the field to defense position. Also negate the activated effects of monsters that were in that defense position when activated. 1 Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. If this card is link summoned, you can add 1 pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. That's going to be your ninja. Once per turn, you can target 1 other face up card you control, destroy it, then add 1 face up pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. If a card or cards in your pendulum zone leaves the field, draw 1 card. Now for the effect where it says you could target 1 other face-up card you control and destroy it, you're primarily going to be using that effect on your Genesis Duke. We have 1 IP Masquerena. Immediately after this effect resolves, link summon 1 link monster using materials you control, including this card. A link monster that used this card as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Next are 2 Beyond the Pendulum. If this card is link summoned in the extra monster zone, you could pay 1200 life points, add 1 pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, but for the rest of the turn, unless you pendulum summon after this effect resolves, you cannot activate monster effects, and the effects of any cards in your pendulum zones are then negated. Off of that summon and paying the 1200 life points, you want to search out another Viscount. If 2 monsters with different original levels are pendulum summoned at the same time to zones this card points to, you can target 2 cards on the field and destroy them. Now when you pendulum summon with the Beyond the Pendulum, you want to target your ninja and 1 other card, and then the 2 cards that you're going to destroy are going to be your field spells, so that way your opponent does not take advantage of them. And then to round out the extra deck, we have 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Apollosa Bow of the Goddess, 1 Access Code Talker, and 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. So that's it for the deck profile for Vaylantz. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, go ahead, leave a like and subscribe. For those that are interested in playing this deck, I will have some combos pinned in the comment section down below. And with that, I will see you in the next one.